Hello, GM. Welcome, everybody. This is Momentum. This is August 28, 2025. This is one homeless person with too much beard that's been traveling too much. And luckily, I'm not alone. I'm here with Mihai Shkiopu. This is Momentum, the podcast where we discuss and live what's going on in the MultiversX ecosystem. How are you, Mihai?
Hey, Lucas, what happened to your hair? The first question. And then what happened
Look.
to your mustache? I hoped to see you with a mustache or something.
We're fixing all of this in due time. The best thing about today is people don't have to focus on me at all because we have such a handsome panel. And while Robert is absent, we're bringing in a co-host from the community, from the builder community, who is just so great to look at, has a haircut, and is maybe freshly shaven. Hello, Tom.
Hello. I do have a haircut. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Robert, our usual co-host, is taking a break for this one, but we have somebody who does the type of segment that Robert usually does. I'm also reminding everybody this is live. You can comment, you can interact, you can send us questions if you have them. I'll bring up some people who are waving and saying hi in the chat. Please feel free to let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you have any comments or questions during the show, we'll try and get them integrated if they're relevant to the show. So first things first, usually Robert has some ideas and thoughts on what's going on in the world of crypto and technology and blockchain. And today we have Thomas to give us some thoughts on what you've been seeing and what's going on broadly.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to try and do Robert justice, although I'm sure I'll fall slightly short at least. I think there's obviously a lot of things that are going on in the world, as we know, every single week. But I tried to pin it down to three main topics. One of them obviously is AI. AI is something that since early 2023, no one can stop talking about. It's something where every single month there's new announcements. There's something where every single company is jumping into it. And I was going to talk a little bit about GPT and then also a bit on Google. And then we can go into a little bit of the crypto market manipulation, as many people are calling it. And from what I see, seems to be the correct way to say it. And then the third one is a little bit more on what's happening in the blockchain world, who's deploying what, and what narratives, what beliefs, what things are driving these things. So if we want to jump into a little bit of AI first, obviously GPT-5 came out very recently, just over a week ago, a little bit more than that. A little bit of statistics on GPT before I jump into GPT-5 itself, because I think it's quite interesting context. There are some reports that say that OpenAI have 83% of the market share. Some people say 60%, and some people say up to 50% of the enterprise market. So no matter what are happening with all these other models, OpenAI, with the initial first mover advantage, are still holding strong with their brand. And it's interesting to see the reaction that GPT-5 has had. It was quite notable that Sam Altman was saying that it's going to be a huge leapfrog. We're going to be getting towards AGI and everyone's going to be super impressed. And it fell quite short of that. A lot of people were not very impressed. Some people even say that it's worse than the 4.0 model. And so I'd love to jump into a little bit of that and maybe see Mihai to begin with what your thoughts were on GPT-5, given how much you deal with these models.
Yeah. To be honest, I was quite surprised. So I've been closely looking to what Sam was posting and everything that he was trying to build around what GPT-5 would mean. And I was quite disappointed when I first tried GPT-5. I did not have any kind of expectations, but at least I would have liked to have better results than what I was already having with other similar, I will not name other similar LLMs. And that's the moment when I realized that probably we reached a plateau And I was trying to think if and how or when the next models will emerge and what they can offer. For GPT-5, I cannot say that it's better or worse than previous models, just because I do believe that each model is very good at a very specific um, task or a very specific use case. And I hope that I did not find yet the specific topic for which GPT-5 is best. Probably others will find. Probably I would have to research more, but at least what I was expecting from GPT-5, it's yet far away from what I wanted. And here I'm probably biased. I'm using LLMs quite a lot for discussing and exchanging some ideas or validating some concepts, not very much into day-to-day job work or job. I'm still trying to keep my mind very connected to everything that I'm trying to do. Probably that's why. It may happen that for day-to-day interactions, it's very good. I'm not using it for that. I try to compare it with what I'm using for coding yet, and it's not at that level. I do believe that others like Opus, for example, or Sonnet for One are very good um, at what they are doing. And yeah, GPT-5, even though in benchmarks they scored higher in real life and in real use cases, it's still not there. And I do agree. I've just seen a comment from Micha. I do agree that from cost point of view, it's indeed much better, uh, and probably that's the selling point, the USP of GPT-5. The quality at the price, it's very good. That's true. Opus is very expensive. It's the most expensive one,
Yeah,
and
we'll talk about AI quite a bit more because I think both. I mean, one thing I missed, of course, because I'm an idiot, to say in the beginning is Tom is the founder of Philanthropy. We'll talk about Philanthropy a little bit later, and as many of the businesses building at the frontiers of technology, of course, Philanthropy also has some AI elements. So very curious, and we'll talk about Vibe Studio and VibeOX. And what's cooking there, I think also, Mihai. So, but yeah, maybe, yeah, great discussion there, and very interesting what advances these actually bring. Cost reduction is a very significant one, right, for actual usability. So if that leap is made, also quite interesting what that means in terms of accessibility and using these systems at scale for integrating them into businesses or agent models, etc. But yeah, passing it back to you, Tom.
Yeah, I think Mihai gave a very good overview, and then you added on there, Lucas. I think the thing for me with GPT-5, which was very interesting, was obviously, well, not too many people know, but GPT-3, ChatGPT, as it's called, was actually born out of a hackathon, and it was just their normal models. They were using APIs which developers would use to be able to interact with their AI large language model, and then they created an interface where normal people could use it, and all of a sudden it blew up. Valuations went crazy. Everyone thought that AI was amazing. Everyone needs AI. Every business was like, what's your AI strategy? Everything happened all at once. And I think the interesting thing about GPT-5 for me is, in the background, one thing that they've done, which is quite smart really, is, I can't remember what they call the system, but it's like a routing system where it actually manages to predetermine what exact parts of the model is being needed to answer the question correctly, or to answer it as efficiently as possible. And I think we're going to see a lot of these things with AI, where these efficiencies are going to be made, and it's become a nicer user experience. So more and more people can use it, and they won't have to be a prompt expert just to be able to know how to use AI. The other bit of recent thing with AI, before we jump into another topic, is a bit of Google's research. So this was a paper that was published. I don't actually remember when. It was in the last few weeks, and they were talking about their research. And before I jump into this, actually, I'll just briefly explain Google's context. Google was actually the first company to do a public research paper on transformers, I think it is. They're called, and that's basically the building block of large language models. They took a long time to get to it. OpenAI beat them to the market because they didn't really put the resources there. But they are very big on the research side of AI, and they've been there for a long
I
time.
think actually a point that they had there too was they felt like Gemini wasn't actually ready for public use, as in it wasn't the guardrails weren't tested, and OpenAI was just like, fuck it, let's just put this in front of the people and see what happens. I think there was actually some like ethical concerns. I remember, I think also that a bunch of Gemini or Google researchers quit because Gemini was released. So quite interesting to see like these obviously tech behemoths sort of grapple with the fact of what the actual effects of releasing AI and super capable models that are untested. Now they're more tested, of course, human tested, but back in the day they weren't at all. We didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know what was going to happen and wanted more research. And I think that was a big point of debate where Altman might have not just been the technically most advanced AI, but also the guy was like, fuck it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, no, it's very true. And I mean, we can't forget, obviously, when they did finally release it, it was a little bit questionable, some of their answers. And that was, anyway, I won't go into that one. But their recent research was actually on looking at advanced on-device AI. So having essentially AI embedded in phones, having it embedded in robots. We see, obviously, where the world's going with robotics, everything like this. And being able to access AI without a connection to the internet, and even potentially if they run it the way that we would hope that they would run it, which they probably won't, protecting your privacy, protecting your data that you're putting into these AI models. And so that's quite an interesting bit of research. I'm just wondering, Lucas or Mihai, I don't know if you wanted to jump in any of that, but I am wondering when you think such devices might potentially be coming out to the world, because I think that's something that a lot of companies will be looking at now.
Mihai is much closer than I am there.
I've been studying the subject for quite a while. I think more than 3 years. And I think we are still far away from having an LLM, or okay, let's say an AI entity. It may be an LLM or a different technology, but having one at the level of GPT-5, just because we were discussing about it, in the next 2 or 3 years, it's too much yet. But what I do believe it will happen is the fact that we will have specialized agents, very small ones, but very specialized ones, that will be able to run on mobile phones or on other IoT devices, even because you were mentioning any kind of robotic entity, be it biped or I don't know, fridge, just because Robert loves to mention fridges and their capacity of processing. I do believe that we are 2 or 3 probably more years away from that. But having a very specific agent, like for example on a fridge, an agent that is able to see exactly or take notice of what you have in the fridge and come with some suggestions, what else you should buy, or make your meal program for the day. I think that's it's already possible, if not already existent. But I don't know if there's any AI technology deployed there. But
would you guys use this, by the way, if your fridge was like, you should make this meal, would you do it? I mean, the shopping I think is good, like, you know, having basically a stock, like, and every time you run low on eggs, it just puts in the order with a delivery service. That seems like something people would use. Would you ever take the recommendations of these AI agents, your fridge agent?
I think I would. Yeah.
There's an
Imagine it scans everything in your fridge, and then it comes up with a potential.
But then you still have to cook it.
if you don't have the cooking
Yeah.
agent or cooking
Exactly.
robot. But there's still one concept which is called federated learning. So this is probably more powerful than the AI agent or the agent staying on your device, is the fact that it can contribute to a bigger model, which can stay somewhere in a cluster. So every fridge can contribute to a bigger model, and this model can become the, I don't know, orchestrator of all the fridges, and the data that it has and the decisions it can take will be very, very valuable to the supply markets. Like probably supermarket or a hypermarket can take decisions based on what the people have in their fridges, and what they intend, or their behavior from what they are eating point of view. So I'm very sure that this will happen soon. The problem with federated learning is the fact that it's still not at that level where it can be deployed um, at the scale for global scale. But I'm sure that Google is working on that. And just because blockchains and AIs match so well, but probably we will get to the subject that Google announced they will probably have a layer one developed by them. So it's a perfect match for federated learning and cryptography, just because they are combining so nicely.
And a very interesting way of tokenizing that data too, right? Like if you're contributing to the nexus of the fridge data for optimizing supermarket supply chains, even production, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting way of like who's participating in these markets, how are
Mm-hmm.
they going to be incentivized to share this private data, and how are they going to be remunerated if they do so, right? Like opting in to these things, having a token share system. Some great business models out there for people listening. But yeah, you mentioned the Google L1. Let's talk about that, I guess, very briefly.
Yeah, I don't know that much, but I've seen some news that Google announced that they will probably uh, announce soon a universal ledger, which is as a private testnet right now, as a response to Arc and Tempo. If for those of you who do not know, Tempo is the layer one EVM compatible layer one, which is going to be developed by Stripe for Stripe, and Arc is the layer one EVM compatible layer one, which is going to be compatible. Oh no, it's going to be developed. Sorry, I had a very long day, which is going to be developed by Circle. So in response to that, and building layer one for finance, Google said they also have a private testnet for layer one by themselves. They want to position it like a very neutral player. So they don't want to take part of being EVM compatible or Solana or whatever, any other ecosystem which is out there, just because they want to expand to to the native commercial banks, and they want to present a solution, a neutral one, as I was saying, a solution for all the banks out there. And now, given the Genius Act announced by Trump's how is it called, administration, exactly, definitely lots of institutions and commercial banks are going and are inspecting, and probably will try this path of minting their own stable coins or other stable coins, of being compatible with Circle, integrating Circle or Tether and so on. But what Google said, and it's easiest for them to do, they want to have this blockchain at a planet scale. Okay, we as MultiversX are there, others are there.
We're
But
ahead. We're on interplanetary scale. Last time I checked.
interplanetary soon, yes. So they are targeting the planet scale, and they are saying that we already have billions of users. It will be very easy for us to onboard them. And we already are working with thousands, probably millions of institutional partners. I know for sure I participated at Google Days in Romania last year, and there were hundreds of Romanian institutions, and also I think some Bulgarian ones, So they already have all of them integrated. For them, it will be so much easy to also bring the benefits of blockchain to the businesses. And that's the moment when most probably everything will explode in the good way, just because the giants are not ignoring the industry anymore. I mean, giants in here, I'm referring to Microsoft, Google, Oracle, and so on, just because up until now, most of the discussions we and others, and the discussions that we had and others also had, were around the infrastructure. So they said, okay, we have this infrastructure business, we can offer it to you, and we will participate mm, in the industry this way. And this was the story for the past 2 years. But now, and I'm sure that Microsoft, if not they will do something, they will invest in something, probably Stripe or Circle. I don't know, Stripe is Microsoft's or not. Probably Microsoft is somehow invested in Stripe, but definitely they will move their side from what they are doing to also to this. So because blockchain and AI, they match so well. It's great.
Yeah, Tom, I know you had a
No,
segment prepared on the Genius Act, and actually this sort of thing is very interesting in terms of how regulatory frameworks are shifting now, especially in the US, making these kinds of advancements and explorations possible for multinational corporations, viable for people who want to get into the settlement game, are already like have huge distribution. Very interesting on how that impacts the space at large. Yeah, maybe dive into that a little bit.
yeah, sure. I won't go too in depth, but the one thing I would say just before I jump into that as well is when it comes to financial institutions and blockchain, one of the big ones as well is JP Morgan. And they've been kind of under the wraps with this. They haven't really been super public. It used to be called Onyx, it's now called Kinexis or something like that. And they've obviously got their fingers in all the pies, and they know all these institutions and all these things. And so it'll be very interesting to see Google coming in to kind of compete. I think Google almost certainly will have a better product, a better technology, but when it comes to financial institutions and so on, networking is one of the most important things. And so if JP Morgan has already built up a huge almost war treasury in some ways of networks and so on, it'll be interesting to see how Google tries to break into that.
It
And then
was
I
looking
guess that
into
kind of
stable
comes
coins
into
specifically, right? That was their play. The
who
JP
was
Morgan. I heard. I kind of remember. Maybe I'm wrong. If there was like a stable coin that they were discussing.
they are doing JPM coin, yes, but they also have ran their own blockchain, private blockchain, permissioned blockchain on Quorum for a few years now. But I guess into the stable coins, like you're saying, Lucas, the Genius Act is obviously a huge thing. When you look at some of the crypto acts that have been passed in the US House and Senate recently, it's actually surprised a lot of people. Like when you're listening to the interviews of these senators and these House representatives, they felt for sure that these banking lobbying groups would never be broken in that kind of thing, because a lot of these banks are very worried that if people obviously move their money onto stable coins, then it takes the money away from the bank deposits and what they can then do with their money. I think what's happened behind the scenes is there's been a lot of negotiations about how it actually can help the banks. If banks are working with it, then they can actually run the stable coins directly through their own depositing accounts, and then they can use that money elsewhere. But one of the interesting things that the banks did, for the US speaking, is they made sure that this legislation would not have any ability for stablecoin issuers to give an APR to the people using their stablecoins. So if someone's using stablecoins legally through financial institutions, they're not allowed to receive an APR from that. And part of that reason is obviously there's still the incentive for people to use bank accounts and everything like this.
Yeah, that's a very interesting aspect there. More on the Genius Act, or should we jump into crime? We love crime on the show.
I'm happy to jump in. The only thing I'll mention real quick before we jump in is with market manipulation and so on, there's obviously loads to talk about, but one of the interesting things that came out recently was Trump media announcing their $6.42 billion treasury, crypto treasury. The reason I want to mention this is because there's clearly been a lot of back dealing going on with some of these things, and they are currently holding $1 billion in CRO tokens, which is Crypto.com's Kronos token. And since that point of the announcement, that was pretty much about 1/6 of all the tokens in circulation, just to put that in
It
context.
did a huge, like 50%
And
leap too on that news, right? The token.
straight after, but if you look on a 7-day chart, it's actually up 161% right now, which is obviously crazy. And then the part of it is that's just 1 billion out of the 6.42. The rest of it is 200 million in cash, 220 million in warrants, and a $5 billion equity line of credit, which we would expect is probably going to be going into other cryptocurrencies very soon. So we might start seeing, along with all these ETF pumps of layer one blockchains and so on, we might start seeing a lot of pumps coming in from just things like the Trump media and so on.
Yeah, interesting. So let's talk about that as like a broader landscape, because again, you mentioned a bunch of backdoor dealing. Now there's obviously government officials in some capacity being involved. There's the sons of government officials that shall be unnamed getting involved in the game and sort of like having their opinions in very public forums, which of course drive prices or expectations. Investors' decisions are being influenced there. Talk a little bit about like how you see the space at the moment and the state of how these things are being handled and dealt with.
It's an interesting thing to go into. It's kind of hard to say. I think when it comes to price action, whether it's stocks or crypto or anything like this, it's all about what the marketing push is, what the narrative is, what the media is talking about, and hype. Essentially, that's what most of it is when we're going into bull runs and so on, which I think we are, given Ethereum just hit an all-time high, and as soon as it hit that all-time high, it retraced. I think it was like 10 something percent, and as soon as it retraced, it actually retraced because Bitcoin dumped, and Bitcoin dumped quite hard in a very sudden thing. And when you look at some of these transactions, Bitcoin was sold off very heavily by some big whales, and they instantly then put that money into longing Ethereum and so on. So it's almost like they dumped Bitcoin so that the whole market would dump, and then they bought loads of Ethereum at a lower price, and now they're starting to get ready for this. And there's so many examples of this. You can see some of these institutions buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin, of Ethereum at very low price, well, relatively low, at $3,500, for example, with SharpLink buying 2 billion recently. And then as soon as they get in their positions, they then pump it up with the hype, the narrative. All of a sudden, Ethereum is sexy again, and the ETF inflows start coming in. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these people like BlackRock and so on are, putting some money into these hedge funds and institutions. A little bit of my background previously was in the financial industry, so I know a little bit of this stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were investing in some of these institutions so that they could get good positions for their investments. And then as soon as the investments are kind of locked in, they then promote it much more to their customers. And then the ETF inflows pump up the price much more. So I guess the summary about all of that is ETFs are going to be a huge narrative. I think corporation investments are going to be a huge narrative. Trump media, obviously big. SharpLink's big. You see, what are they called? Some MicroStrategies, now called Strategies. MetaPlanet from Japan. And speaking of Japan, you see Eric Trump, who's Trump's son. He's actually taking a business trip to Japan very recently for the Asia Bitcoin conference. And he's going to be talking to obviously a lot of these people like MetaPlanet and so on like this. And I think this is kind of just the game, this cycle. previously adoption was not here, no one really knew what was happening. Now adoption's coming, and the smart money will always make money. So it's about, I guess, following what's happening with this, and I guess attracting some of this investment as well, especially like ETF inflows and so on, because otherwise it's a lot less attractive for people who are looking to invest.
Right. Yeah. Some institutional place, there's adoption place, there's distribution place, like we were talking the layer one, new layer ones emerging from these giants. Very interesting. Thank you, Tom. We'll progress from the crime to what's actually being built on MultiversX specifically now. Give us a little update on what's going on the protocol level, Mihai.
I think yesterday and the day before yesterday, we had so many in detail and very technical discussions about what is being built at protocol level. And here I'm referring specifically to Supernova. I will follow back on this just because it's something that it's how Benjamin and also Adrian is promoting it as the most important upgrade after Genesis. But having all those discussions prior to this about global payment systems and global payment networks, and when we are thinking from payment point of view, Supernova makes more sense than anything. You cannot wait for 6 to 18 seconds to have a transaction being finalized. You need one shot, you need instant finality for that. Just because imagine having a real world use case where you want to pay for something and you will have to wait for 18 seconds. So you would have to scale on horizontal or vertical. Vertical meaning having a huge queue behind of you, and horizontal meaning having so many cashiers, which is none of them is very efficient. Coming back to Supernova, I will not go to the details about technical implementations. I will just talk a little about the difficulties that we got while building and the point where we are at the moment. Now, thinking about the fact that we will get from 6 seconds to 600 milliseconds, it means that we will have 10 times more blocks. This means the amount of data will increase so much that and everything will have to be processed, everything will have to be stored, everything will have to be provided to all the other apps, and several changes have to be done on API side, on front-end sides, at the product level also. So everyone who, for example, implemented their logic in the applications based on number of blocks as time hooks, they will have to change that just because one block will not mean 6 seconds anymore. So if you I don't know, design your product that every 30 seconds or 5 blocks will send something to the users, it will not be available and it will not be valid anymore. We already made available the endpoints to solve that with the Barnard release. So everyone who has a DApp and has to make the changes can already start to do that, just because with Barnard, the endpoints which are providing the time in milliseconds, just because we need the milliseconds, are already available. Up until Supernova, we will also have an interim release, let's call it like that, just because relayed V1 and relayed V2. So those are for those of you who do not know, are the transactions for which the gas is not paid by the sender, but by a third account, which is the relayer. In this case, they are going to be decommissioned. So again, if you have your logic based on relayed V1 or relayed V2, you have a solution which is relayed V3 which is much more efficient. It's already live and is being used by, I think, 70% of the entire users who are using relay transactions. So the rest of 30% will just have to shift. Why are we decommissioning the previous two? Just because they are not efficient and they bring a lot of complexity, which we do not need with Supernova. Now, with Supernova, probably for our validator communities, they will think, will there be some changes on the system requirements level? And the short answer is not yet, but in the near future, probably some changes will be needed, especially with the parallel processing upgrade that is following after Supernova. But also up until then, we will have probably, as the benchmarks were showing, we will have an increase of maximum 1 gigabyte per epoch, if I'm not wrong, which will mean that with the actual system requirements, there are no changes needed. Just because also the indexer has been updated for that. We battle tested it with VibeOX chain or Vibe chain, just because with Vibe chain, as you probably know, and if you did not know, Supernova is already live and running. So we have 600 milliseconds block times, and it's running for 2 months already. We had some hiccups, but not on the blockchain side. The hiccups were coming from the API point of view. Also, the API is going to be changed. New endpoints are going to be added and changed on that aspect. So I would say that, and as I was mentioning, also the front end is going to be adapted for Supernova. So changes on all levels. This is what happens when you have a second Genesis, to call it like that. You have to prepare for all the changes that are going to come. And just because we are not going to launch without being close to our community of builders and users, we already started the changes on X Exchange side. And for that, we have Claudio with us today, and he will describe shortly what changes are needed, where are they with the changes, and afterwards we will also go to the updates from X Exchange side.
Welcome,
Hello.
Claudia.
Hello, guys. How's it going on your side? So, to come back to your question, Mihai, as we discussed before into the developer session as well. So, to prepare the X exchange for Supernova upgrade, so we have to change the smart contracts, and then we have to change as well the backend infrastructure and part of the front end. So as I mentioned, for the smart contracts, the things that we have to change is the rewards distribution and the way that we are computing right now the rewards distributions for farms and for the stakings, because we took into consideration that we will be computing the time being passed as blocks being passed, and because of this we have to change it to a timestamp so that we can rely on the timestamps being passed or the time being passed. And also maybe the most important and maybe the most critical thing that we should do for the X exchange, it's in terms of the payers upgrades, and more specifically for the safe price mechanism, because there is a way for us that we are putting this some sort of on-chain oracle for each tokens that are listed on X exchange for their prices. so that integrators or other DeFi projects that are needed prices, and they need a way that the prices cannot be manipulated, is this safe price mechanism, and it's based on time being passed, and you basically get an average. So because the time is shorter now with the supernova, basically we have to change it in the way that we are computing that average. And the way that we're doing it right now is to take some samples in every block, or every time a transaction or a swap is being executed on chain, which means 6 seconds now. And we have a limited time frame that we're taking it. And
Yeah,
it's
question.
also being because of the blocks. Yes, Lucas.
I have a question for both of you. Sort of like I mean, you're speaking from the kitchen, let's say, of the X exchange, and Mihai from the kitchen of the protocol. Like, does re-engineering the entire protocol produce like so many changes, especially with the finality and things like that, that you need to re-engineer the product sort of completely, or how smooth is this kind of transition?
Yeah, so at least from our side in the protocol for the X exchange, there are not critical changes for us, but we have to ensure that everything it's still secure enough with the Supernova upgrade. Even though the block time it's reduced from 6 seconds to 600 milliseconds, it will mean at least for the X exchange that there will be more swaps that are being processed in the same amount of time. So for now, in 6 seconds, we can basically process how many gas it can be done, but the finality is basically when the block is final. But now, because the block finality it's way shorter, it means that we can process more swaps.
Nice. Yeah. Beyond, of course, there's been the supernova thing you're already proactively preparing for. As I assume, Mihai, we want everybody else. The endpoints are provided. If there's any other, are there more modules coming out, let's say, to make this transition easy pre-launch? How is that sort of, how are you guys thinking of that from the inside of the team, that transition to help people, update smart contracts and whatever else needs to be done?
Yeah. So I've been talking only from the smart contract side, but to have an entire product being ready for the supernova upgrade, there are the other parts that we have to take into account and update them, just because we want to make sure that the user experience and what users will be seen after the supernova is that everything will be instant, smooth, and they will be seeing basically instant updates on their front end. So because of that, we have to update how we are thinking in terms of the architecture that we have for the backend and the data that are being updated. And we will be using a lot, and will be make sure that with the events and the updates that are coming from the protocol side in terms of state changes, it will be integrated in our side, and we'll make sure that everything will be updated real time every time that a swap is happened, or any action from the user side, and they will see basically instant updates.
What other upgrades are you guys planning? I know you just optimized some route with better rates that users can get. What else is coming for X Exchange?
Yeah. So indeed, we made maybe one of the most important updates in terms of our product. So basically, we are thinking in two directions now, which is the front end in terms of in terms of our product or our business line for the X exchange, and then is the protocol side, and I will come back a bit on the protocol as well. But for the product with the smart swaps, basically we've been working for it for a few months, and we knew that there is a better way to propose swaps for users and to propose better rates for them. The current approach that we had, it's basically having a single route from one token to another, even though the routes can be from multiple pairs up until the token that the user wants at the end. But the more optimal approach would be to, and it is the approach that we have right now, is to split the input amount that the user it's putting into the trade or the swap, and split it in multiple routes into multiple pairs, and then at the end, because there can be some arbitrage that even the users can do in this approach, and the price impacts being how much liquidity it's in every pool, they will be able to get a better rate at the output because of this split of the routes. So this is what we have right now.
I have a question on that. With the reduced block times, right? We always worry and are talking about MEV and talking about on like a technical level how resistant MultiversX at protocol level is to that. Like how does that change, especially since you're in the swap business? I don't know if Mihai or Claudia, you want to take this, but like what are the considerations around those front-running sandwich attack thingies that users can be worried about in these swaps, and how, you know, does the new protocol upgrade then affect these things?
Do you want to take it, Mihai, or I can give a short answer? So maybe just a short answer from my side. I think that with the supernova, and because the block time it will be less than what it is right now, you will have to reconsider everything in terms of computing your MEV or your sandwich attack, and reconsider all your algorithms or anything that you are building, just because it has to perform way faster in terms of getting that sandwich attack.
Interesting. Mihai, on the protocol level, anything to add there?
Yeah, it's if it was hard before, it would be even harder. So I don't think that it will represent a problem for after supernova, as it is not representing a problem right now. There are other ecosystems that use this as a basis for increasing revenue. There are other solutions to bring revenue to the chain. We are very much analyzing and coming up with solutions for that very soon.
Nice. And Claudia, before we let you go, we have to talk about our favorite topic, which is MEX. When MEX 2.1, what are the plans? How is it going on the end of, let's say, how the token fits into the revenue model and what you guys are doing right now?
So there is a big update that it's imminent, and it will come very, very short. And I've been talking about it from quite some time. So it's the way that we are distributing the fees to the fees collector. We found a better way that we can do it. And I think the update that we will propose for a governance call. So first of all, there will be a governance proposal and then a governance call in terms of the changes that we would like to do for the fees collector mechanism. So right now, as many of you might know, that the mechanism, it's basically we are distributing a portion of the trading fees to any users that have energy each week, and they would get basically some tokens at the end of a week. But depending on how much energy you have, the perception is that you don't get that much value from it. And we found a way basically to convert all the tokens that are deposited in the fees collector and convert them into MEX, and at the end of the week everybody will get MEX tokens, which means that we are putting back that basically 0.05% buyback that we were doing before the fees collector. We are putting it back into the MEX buying pressure. So with this in place and the way that we are thinking, rethinking the mechanism, it would allow us to add more on the permissionless side and the decentralization for the X exchange, which means that we will be able to enable this mechanism for all of the payers, because now it is supposed that we are doing it manually, and there are some limitations into the protocol side as well, which would not let us to enable for any pairs. So this is one thing, and a very big technical debt that we'll be solving with it. And because of this, we'll be able to add more buyback pressure for the max tokens, and the energy holders will get better values.
I remember a conversation that I thought was pretty interesting with you, like not that long ago. I was in Bucharest at the MultiversX exchange, and it was like basically if volumes of the exchange are just, let's say, slightly higher, like a 3x or something, you already mentioned, like the tokenomics right now are such that it would be close to deflationary at the moment. So
Yes.
there's some interesting, maybe that's also worth republishing or getting out there, sort of like how the mechanisms work right now, and how they're developing in the near future, and then also of course mid and long term. But yeah, I think some very interesting and good insights on what you guys are building and how things are developing. Yeah, not sure if you have any like last things. What are you looking forward to the most next for X Exchange, and any big releases coming up?
Supernova upgrade and everything around it, and the fees collector. These are maybe the most important parts for us right now.
Yeah, I think
and there will be something, but I will just let you know when it's time for it.
Okay, all right. We'll have you back on to talk about that. For now, thanks so much for taking the time and
Thank
letting
you.
us in.
Thank you for having me.
And chat very soon.
Thank you, Claudio.
Thanks, Claudio.
Bye.
Mihai, I think passing it over to you for just a quick update, as we're already coming on the first hour here. We don't want to get to the second, on MultiversX, and then we have another special guest.
MultiversX. Yeah, actually 99% of the work in the past month, to say so, was not MultiversX. It was actually Vibe Studio 2. And what we are working at the moment is optimizing the interactions between agents. So as I was saying in the beginning of the podcast, I do believe that multi-agents, so multi-agentic agents, is the future, and I believe that will bring very good results. What we already saw, so the results of be it a Web 2, Web 3 mini app, smart contract, whatever product that we are trying to build with a team of agents, it's much better than the results that we had with other competitors. I will not say names. The problem are the costs. And for that, we developed kind of a middleware. And while developing the middleware, we thought and we realized that every other business and product that is building a AI code generator or a wrapper over an LLM has this issue. And the issue is with the context. When you have a team of agents, let's say, for example, in our case, you are entering the Vibe Studio, you will have the agents of Vibe, and you can see that agent 1 is very good at some topics. Agent 2 is very good at other topics. This means that their RAG is specialized on that knowledge. It means that it was optimized to use tools in that area. And it means that if there's a quest for the respective agent to use a tool, it will be transferred to the right agent to use the tool. Now, given the fact that we have 3 or 4 agents, in our case 6, if you have several agents, like a team, imagine that you are entering Vibe Studio 2 and you have a team of agents, like an outsourcing company who is going to develop your product. The entire context of what each agent can do and what previous agents did and what problems they had and so on, at one point in time and in one point in conversation becomes huge. And huge means that each interaction that you have with the system will cost you, okay, the costs are not over $2, but imagine having 5 interactions, I don't know, asking to change a title or something, and the cost going above $10. That's a lot. What we are trying to build with Vibe Studio 2 is a product for end users. So an end user has an idea, let's say, for example, a coin flipper, or the bobber battle game. He wants to create a bobber battle game. He has no knowledge about it, but he knows about Vibe Studio, and he asks the agents in Vibe Studio to create a bobber battle game. It will be able to do it from 1 or maximum 2 shots. Afterwards, you will have to customize it based on your specific requests. Like, for example, with Bobber Battle, I never played it. I've seen lots of posts, but I believe Bobber is the main character or the main token there. So if you would like, for example, to accept only certain tokens, then you would have to send another request to the team of agents to adapt the application to your requests. If you need some certain colors, if you need some certain images, or if you want some, I don't know, specific changes in the way how the designer agent designs your page.
That's $2 every time now in this world?
No. So please let me finish. Initially, doing the first MVP of the product, it will probably reach costs around manageable costs around $3 or $4. With smart contracts, deploying the smart contracts, testing the smart contracts, funding the smart contracts just because the contract has to pay some transaction costs and so on. Also linking the smart contract to the front end. But afterwards, all those changes in time. So if you have, I don't know, several interactions with the team, yes, it may happen that at a certain point we'll reach $1 or $2 per request. That's the actual status. We already implemented the middleware, which deals with the context optimization and dynamically changes the context for the agents based on some weights and based on some weights on the importance of the interactions, importance of the responses, importance of the files which are involved in the logic of that certain moment in conversation that you have with the agent. And at first, we see very good results on that. So I would say by the end of this week, we should be able to start heavy testing internally. We are also changing the way how we deal with the artifacts. We will try to keep the artifacts as much as possible locally and not exchanging it with the agents that much, just providing some metadata to the agents, again, to keep the cost very low. And of course, certain AI logic and other AI agents which are not visible are involved in all those interactions, and also thinking about building a neural network to be able to to categorize the type of interactions that you have with the agent. So yes, there's a lot of work to do here. Meanwhile, we also had very good results on the editor side, code editor side, also improvements on the design side. The let's say UX is let's say close to the point where we can say that we are almost ready to launch. I know that the launch date was planned for end of August. We are at the end of August. It will not happen just because if we would do it, it will cost you the users a lot. There is going to be a free plan, free tier also for the people who would like to try very simple applications, as you can do right now with Vibe Studio One. I've seen lots of discussions about the fact that the applications that you can build with Vibe Studio One are very simple, but I understand that the people who are saying that do not understand the entire system and why is only that, and that's the need for Vibe Studio 2. Why we need Vibe Studio 2 is just because of that. With Vibe Studio 2, you will see that certain things will start to make sense, and also we have plan for Vibe as well.
Very exciting. Just quickly in like wrapping it up in 3 sentences, like the big leap from Vibe Studio 1 to Vibe Studio 2, what can people do now, and like for VibeOX, and then we'll change the topic.
So what you are asking is what people can build with Vibe Studio 1?
Yeah, just the bullet points of like what's the development. Like Vibe Studio 1, you could do, you know, simple games, one prompt. You can then refine it and make it a little bit more complicated. But you know, let's say the smart contract integrations, et cetera, like what's going to be the big leap, the 2 or 3 things that Vibe Studio enables that you can't do right now on Vibe Studio 1, but also maybe in the general space because it just simply doesn't exist yet.
Yeah. With Vibe Studio 1, so there's a technology gap. With Vibe Studio 1, you can build web applications. Here I'm saying in very general terms. This means that you can build websites, you can build landing pages, you can build very simple games that run in your browser. And that's what we have seen up until now. There are very interesting tentatives from, I think, Sila and I think El Pulpo and other builders tried. And obviously, it was very easy to integrate the SDK app and have an authentication with your wallet and to see some data from the chain. I think also Columbia Staking did that. Kudos for that. So you would be able to send some transactions, query some balances, and so on. But it was impossible to build a backend. It was impossible to build a smart contract just because you could have not compile and build it and afterwards deploy it. Just because in web containers you cannot install SC Meta, you cannot install Rust, you cannot install Python and all the other tools that you need. Well, for Vibe Studio 2, for each session, so each user initially starts with one session, which in theory means you have one workspace that translates to one VM. The Docker image that we are instantiating for you as a user in the cloud will have all the tools that you need to build a Web3 compatible product, MultiversX compatible product. So you have the latest SC Meta, you have the compatible Rust version, you have everything that you need already installed. All what you have to do is to start analyzing a little the architectures that are working and have best results on MultiversX, and try to prompt them as well as possible to the agent. It will probably fail from the first try out, but I'm sure, and as we have seen in the tests, if you are able to define the problem and come with a potential solution to the agents, it will solve by itself. So what you will be able to do, you will be able to instruct the specialized agent with smart contracts to build a smart contract with a certain logic, but you would have to be able to check the logic of the developed code. If you will not be able to that, then never recommend anyone to use your your product anyway. And you will be able to have a test wallet interacting with it. You can deploy it, and this is what I recommend: deploy it to VibeOX chain or DevNet or testnet, wherever you want, and invite everyone to try your application, and probably call for some expert support to audit your application before deploying it to mainnet. Or if you are crazy enough, you can directly deploy it to mainnet. We don't have an issue with that, but definitely, personally, I will never interact with your application as long as it is developed by a group of agents, that by a person who has no technical knowledge in the background.
That makes a lot of sense.
We also have
Thank you.
we call them mini apps. So for those who are familiar to N8N, we call them mini apps. I think I've seen also that Google has the same naming for those. So you will be able to prompt the agents to develop logic for an agent that will run on the VM for trading purposes. So you may run, you can deploy an agent that sends a transaction to self. This is the simplest, stupid ever application. Don't do it, a mini app. So, but for the sake of example, deploy an agent that runs on a VM and sends to self 1 e-gold every 1 second after supernova, obviously. And this will run in the background. You will be able to enter Vibe Studio and see all the workspaces and all the logic which is running without the front end, so it's nothing but a back end. And you can define, I don't know, a trading agent. You can define an agent that scrapes the entire Twitter and looks for some news, and based on the news, takes some decisions and stuff like this without a front end. So you just go look in the logs and expect some results in the end.
Really democratizing it to everyone to build. And I think, Mihai, you've mentioned so many amazing things with the product and how it just makes it so simple and easy for people to build these applications. I'm just wondering, I know obviously from a couple of discussions with you in the past, you guys are looking at other people who are doing similar things, and I'm just wondering what ways you guys are really pitching the unique selling point of Vibe Studio, and then also when you're talking about launch, what kind of ideas, systems, or so on are you guys having to try and really differentiate in the market today?
The unique selling point, first of all, is the fact that you will be able to relate to the agents as you would relate to a employee. So you will have an agent with an identity and with a set of skills that you can initially cannot change, but we are thinking about having an upgrade. We don't know exactly when, but we want to offer the possibility to the user to build their own agent with their own set of knowledge that can also be deployed to a marketplace, so people can use that knowledge that you can build as a rug, because this is a very powerful concept, the rug concept. We tried some small experiments and we've seen very good results. So this can be one thing. Then about the launch, we are thinking about having several
Mihai, just to come in here real quick, what is the rug concept? Because I don't want that to be misunderstood. What is the rug concept?
Is the RAG, is not
Yeah. Okay.
RUG.
Just wanted that clarified so it doesn't get misconstrued. You know how Twitter is.
Yeah. So sorry, where I was at the So for the launch moment, first of all is the end result. We have the Vibe store, so people can directly publish to the Vibe store, which means that initially, even though it's not a custom domain and it's not hosting initially, we have plans for that as well. But you can easily share the entire product, all the products that you had with the entire community out there. You can, by one click, you can deploy it, share it to the Twitter, you can share it to WhatsApp, Telegram, or wherever you want. And then what we want to do is to run some campaigns. I don't know if campaign is the right name, but events like hackathons. But I don't know if it's the right name to call a vibe coding contest a hackathon.
A Vibathon. We're gonna do it.
It's a Vibathon. Yeah, cool name. I like the name Vibathon. So we want to run monthly Vibathons with prize pools, and just because the quality of the end result of the end product is so good, definitely it will attract lots of interested new users to try it and to deploy it. Even though at the beginning it will be probably used mostly for Web2 apps, by the time, just because it's so easy to ask the Web3 expert agent to convert your Web2 app to a Web3 app, that's just crazy. And also one concept that we believe will be catchy for everyone. So I don't know whom, I believe dev.fun or Bolt. Anyway, all platforms nowadays have the remix functionality. We will also have the redesign functionality. What does it mean?
Yeah. Okay. Good.
The redesign functionality, it means that you will be able to, for example, I have a barber shop. I have no idea how to build a website. I like websites. I don't
here in both of our cases, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like apple.com or I don't know, mcdonalds.com, and I just want a barber shop website for my barber shop. What I do is I will go to the Vibe Studio. I will tell the Vibe Studio, hey, I like apple.com design. Build me a barber shop website that looks similar to apple.com. And the agents will start analyzing, they will crawl, they will screenshot apple.com from all positions, to say so, on every page in every region, and it will try to use the details from apple.com for your barbershop.com. This is a very powerful feature for every Web2. It's not even a Web2, every small business owner. And I think it will help a lot. And afterwards, if what you want to do is to tokenize or to make some loyalty program for your business, all you have to do is come back in Vibe Studio 2 based on the. But now, if it's not RAG, RAG, how should I say in English?
RAG probably.
RAG.
Yeah, it's retrieval augmented generation.
Yeah, it's a retrieval augmented generation, but it's RAG. RAG.
Yeah.
Okay. To have it like that. It will be able to analyze what would fit for your barbershop as loyalty program it will try to tokenize it and deploy it to probably mainnet if you want to have it some official. I'm curious if I answered to your question, Tom.
Yeah, I think you did. And that's a lot of exciting things. We're already seeing in the chat there people liking the Vibraphone idea, so I'm looking forward to some of them myself.
I'll talk a little bit about it in the last segment. Want to move on. Thank you so much on the ViboX updates. I think that almost always kind of needs its own show. Maybe we have to do like a 30-minute monthly update on ViboX or something. That might be cool.
Vibementum.
Just go up to Mihai with a camera and just say 30 seconds. Give us the update.
And then 30 minutes later, you're still there with a lame arm. But yes, I want to bring in, because this is another sort of aspect of building cool things on chain. And we just learned about tools. And there's somebody who's been busy building tools for actually quite some years now. Thrilled to welcome Andu, one of the creators of Project X, to the show, and the only person with more beard than I do. How are you, Andu?
Hello. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to actually get some updates on ViboX, and I'm really excited for it because it basically enhances everyone to start building. And we do need some competition in the space, and we want better products, better UX, and of course, more users that will come because of them.
Yeah, and I think actually Mihai already mentioned some API things coming for Supernova and tools. And let's start with you actually personally. Like, I mean, we've been talking for a number of years. Talk a little bit about getting into Elrond, starting. I don't know actually how you started as an investor, or if you were always interested in building. Talk a little bit about your personal journey into the ecosystem, and then we'll chat about what you're building at the moment.
Well, funny enough, I discovered the crypto before I went to university. I think it was 2017, but in 2017, everything was pretty bland. Like there were 20 coins you can buy. There was no like Web3 mentality. Crypto Twitter was fun, but again, there was no communities that you can get really into. And the Web3 meta didn't really form yet. So I had to choose another hard thing to do, and I chose med school. But meanwhile, in med school, with a lot of time spent at the computer studying, or because of COVID, I got more in depth into Web3. And that's when I discovered MVX enrolled at that time. I think it was 2021. It was Mayar launch when you were able to stake straight from the app. That's the first time I interacted with the chain. I bought some e-gold back then, but just to try out, and experiment. Sadly, I was not early enough for the pre-sale and Binance ICO and whatever. But when I discovered a real Web3 community, especially close to the fundamentals that I really liked about Web3, about decentralization, heavy tech, and less about the price and more about the tech, I really got into it. And if I had the choice of choosing Web3 before medicine, like med school, I would have chosen Web3 from the get-go. But because there was no existing Web3 back then, I had to pick something else that was hard enough to keep me going, So yeah, that's how I discovered Enroll. That's how I started. Of course, my first purchase was Bitcoin. I started as an investor, but after getting into Web3, I transitioned to wanting to build things and to learn more about the technology behind it.
And I think we first interacted like just the same as I got to know Tom actually in the NFT community's early days. Elrond, you had your own project there. Then you had some technically very capable friends, and you started also doing some smart contracts. Talk about like that sort of, you're not a dev, but you're somewhat technical at this point, I imagine, running a dev shop. Like how was that transition from like investor to like committed to, let's say, the vibes, the ethos, etc., to then starting your own thing and exactly, transition to what you're building now?
I'm definitely not a dev. I never written any code except AI code. So
Have you
vibe
vibed?
code.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But we started, in NFT communities. I think the Ducks, which is a product we recently acquired, was the first entry into the Web3 space, the degenerate space, let's say, with like nobody knowing what's going on exactly, but everyone being happy and everyone making money somehow from somewhere. Again, we were not understanding a lot, but because of the Ducks and of the tech, we kind of wanted to build a game on chain. Of course, back then it was only play to earns. We tried to get into it until we figured out it's very hard and it's very consuming. It's above what we can do. Again, I started Lucky Birds. It was called at first. Now we transitioned to Lucky Birds Labs, which is our development company. But we started, playing with smart contracts, front ends, Unity, trying to link the chain to a game. The deeper you get into Web3 gaming, the less hyped you get. So we transitioned from trying to build a game to trying to build products. And we started building products for others at first as a contractor. We built, I think we worked with 20 projects from Enroll days. At that time, we did audits, smart contracts, swaps, locked max swaps, some games here and there. But I really tried to get my developer friends into Web3, and happily, I'm happy that I succeeded into doing that. And that part of our story, it took like 2 years. So Lucky Birds Labs did its thing for 2 years, but then we wanted to evolve to the next step and not build an app for someone, but build a product that it's used by users and projects on Enrolled back then. So that's when the idea of Project X came, and we figured out that we really want to be like providers of great tools that empower users, projects, and communities at the same time, and to have our products used by a lot of people, not just by one project, and then you get your hands off it, and whatever happens, it happens. You have no power over it. We wanted to have the power to improve the projects, to build on top of them, and so on. So that's when Project X came in, and we figured the best way to do this is to combine a DAO and a good development team, and to empower the community to help us and basically become part of the active DAO, to get users, to get clients, to get ideas, to build on the basis of Web3 that I liked at the start. So right now we are a fully community-owned DAO as Project X. That reinvests back to the ecosystem and rewards our members that help us every day and helped us to get here through a lot of ways. I'm not going to mention everything they did for us or with us, but it was a very pleasant journey to build with so many people and to actually meet everyone from an ecosystem. And I kind of feel it feels like an achievement to me right now, although we have a way longer path to go. We have bigger plans now. We want to do a lot more now that we wanted to do at the start. But yeah, it was very fun, and we found that MVX is the best fit for us. That's why we stayed here so long, and we don't even look at other places. I mean, we do research, and we try to see what others are building. But again, I still heavily believe in the tech of MVX and in the community. So we are here to stay. Did we lose Lucas?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
He
looks
rugged.
like
RAG.
Great.
RAG.
But
Ragged.
Andu, tell us more about what happened in the last week. I've seen Project X transition to the validator hat, and I'm curious, how did that happen?
Well, we had 3 pillars in Project X that I always pushed to the team and the community. We had a revenue first model, like that's what the DAO is for, to get revenue and to enrich the members. And basically getting inside the DAO, you win something, so we get more and more people. Utility, and that means building tools and products that people use. And infrastructure, which came later, but we found it's really necessary for everything to be, linked together and have a very strong base. In the beginning of the year, we started developing Kepler, and it's the API service with a different approach, more builder-to-builder approach than just offering a service for businesses to handle whatever. We are trying to actively help the community and to bring the UX of the chain to the next level, because we learned some lessons from building here, and we also saw a lot of mistakes that we did and others did. So we said, you know what, let's just get even more friendly with everyone and try to help them and offer them the infrastructure needed to scale their apps and make it better for the users, and to basically level up the UX of the chain without having to do anything with the chain. It's like a layer on top of it. So after we did that, and we are getting in touch.
And that, sorry, Andrew, I just wanted to jump in, because that was actually quite a big thing that you guys did there, and really cool. Just because for any context from anyone who may not know those things, a lot of traffic right now is going through the public API on MultiversX, and that can obviously get jammed up if there's enough projects, and specifically if there's like NFT mints and so on, which we saw the last bull run. And when those things happen, you can see NFT mints start to crash, and they have to restart everything in their systems. And if you're especially looking for like businesses and adoption, this is something that just can't happen. So I just wanted to highlight that a little bit, Andrew, because it's a really cool thing that you guys built.
Funny enough, when we did our first mint with Project X, we crashed the public API. And everyone was waiting for like 7-10 minutes to mint again, and we were like, okay, we need to build infra. So it started more than 2 years ago, but we didn't make it as a service. We had our infra, and we learned what it's needed for almost 2 years, and then we decided to level up and start offering it to everyone. So I started from the question that why a validator. I think it was the evolution, the natural evolution of the project. We had the community, we had the tools, we had the infrastructure, and to get deeper into the chain, we need to have a validator. This means that it will help us experiment with RPCs to test that math protection, with help with ultra low latency apps and so on. So we wanted to have a validator for the tech, but also it was heavily requested by our community, because they had a lot of e-gold staked in different places, and we wanted to unify that e-gold and not waste the fees, I don't know, on checkses or whatever. So we wanted to basically, beyond the staking rewards, become another source of revenue for our community, and of course for the new members that will join our community because of this, because we have a gamified system and APR boost via Project X NFTs and DNA. But it basically represents the community DAO running a validator. It basically lets you be part, own the validator, and I don't think that has been done before, because every member of the DAO basically owns part of the fees from that validator. Again, it was heavily requested. We debated it. It was a lot of work, a lot of new things to discover, but at this point it made sense. And with Supernova coming and the new Genesis coming, I think this was the perfect time to launch this. And of course, we are looking at the next upgrades in terms of what validators need to do, what is possible for them, what is possible for delegators with, changing the provider with no unbounding period, and more on the tech side. And the devs are pretty excited about running a validator and having access to all that power that comes with RPCs and so on.
So Ando is already thinking about the new Genesis and all the goodies that are coming afterwards, like staking provider to staking provider move, or transfer of funds without waiting the 10 epochs.
Yeah, and also with Supernova, infrastructure is so much more important. So to have the full suite of things on the table, Kepler, validator RPCs, and all the tools that are at this moment being upgraded to be ready for Supernova one by one, it will be so much more important. Our role will be so much more important, in my opinion, in the ecosystem, that we will go and help everyone with this transition from 6-second blocks to whatever they might be under 1 second. I hope it's 100 milliseconds. I don't really care. It can be as low as possible, but our work just starts now on this side. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's all.
And where do you see it going now, Andrew? You guys, obviously you started very small, doing jobs for other people. You did your own NFT mint. You've now got Kepler helping out with services, Saturn, all of these things, and now a validator. What are you guys thinking for the future?
I kind of want the DAO as a creator, and I share this with other creators as well. We are 3 creators that started this whole thing. I kind of want the DAO to be run by itself, so we don't need to touch anything, and the community manages itself, and all the loops that are around the DAO, the revenues, the NFTs, the tokens, the whatever, run by themselves, and we can focus heavily on development and not spend so much time managing the community that we had to do, because again, you need to gain trust, you need to whatever. But this proved to be the case, because right now, unofficially, we have more than 15 people that are leading the DAO, basically sub DAOs, other projects coming in, devs, community managers, and whatever. And they do a very good job of running the DAO without the creators looking every day at them and being able to focus on other things. And I think that's what will happen in the future, to basically, if something, you never show up, and when you come back in 2 weeks of staying in the basement with the devs, everything is good. It's nothing bad happened. Everyone is doing their thing. Things are flowing. Revenue is flowing. More, customers are coming in to use the tools. People are happy, and so on.
Ideally, but things are so far away from that.
Yeah.
Great.
But we are on that way, on that path.
Do you have a model that you have seen in other ecosystems that you are following, or is something that you invent at the moment and you will try to sell it as your own way that others can follow?
I've seen what didn't work. There were a lot of things regarding DAOs that did not work at all. Like, I haven't seen a true DAO that did its thing and is now okay. At some point, something bad happened. So we are trying to learn from that. Of course, there's a new mistake every day, either by us, either by another DAO or another community. And that's how we basically run this thing. We learn from all the mistakes around us or inside, or
Did you ever think about going outside of Web3 with a DAO, like doing something also in the, let's say, institutional, or building something outside of the digital world?
Yeah, not really as a DAO though. The DAO pretty much stands as Web3 to me. Like DAO equals Web3. I think it's one of the sole things in Web3, and this idea got exploited only here in Web3. I do have some things that I'm thinking about and I'm working on regarding Web3 and real life, trying to combine this with the medical background that I have, but still pretty much in brainstorming sessions, and there's no plan yet. But we will try some things, and I don't know if I will be able to link it somehow to the DAO, but they will of course have something to earn from everything we will do, because we are so, our identity is pretty much Project X. So
Got it. It seems like meanwhile we have Lucas back with us.
Hopefully for a bit anyways. I hear a lot of things have been discussed. The validator discussion, I think this is great to see. It's like people involved in different ways, and the growth of like now a validator yourself on the chain is extremely impressive. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Great. Thank you very much, Andu. I loved all the insights. Congrats for the, let's say, heavy tryouts that you went to up until the point where you are at right now. And good luck for the future. We are here to support you and all the other builders who are trying to succeed in our ecosystem. And I wish you only the best of luck.
thank you so much, and thank you for having me. And yeah, keep it up. I love this podcast.
Thanks.
Thank you, Andu.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. So I don't know if we should risk my little category and I'll just go out, or if we just cut the show here. Highlights. There's quite a bit to talk about. How is the connection now? Oh,
It was okay, but it's a bit laggy. So
Yeah, I think probably there are 2 or 3 points that we could talk about. And I would say here that growth games can be a subject. Probably this was also on your agenda, Lucas. Yeah. And
yes,
just talking about
I
growth.
missed everything you said before. Yeah, because my internet just gave out again, and now I'm back, so I have no idea how the sentence started. But growth games, yes, are definitely in the highlights that I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. So
maybe you take that one. If I'm.
Yeah. And about growth games. So for growth games, we will have several batches of announcements. This was the first batch where the decisions were much more easier to be taken. And we announced Philanthropy, Predict QS, I don't know, I think this is the correct spelling for it. We announced the Victor Protocol and Inspire. Most of them are projects that you may probably already know. Like Philanthropy, we have Thomas with us, and probably Thomas, you can say a few words about it. Then we have Victor Protocol, who are builders from the beginning. They have a very nice story behind of them, and they want to also advance in their story and to build for the ecosystem. And then we have Inspire, who are adapting to the new trends that we see in the Web3, like payments. So, and this is a very with great potential. But coming back to Philanthropy, Thomas, how do you feel about the grant? What are you going to do? What are the next plans, short-term, mid-term, and long-term plans?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, we're very proud to be part of the Growth Games grant. I think when it was first announced, it was something. It was a grant system was something that I was saying for a few years, just as a community member at the time, would be something MultiversX should really look at, and so I was very happy to see it happen. And obviously, at that point in time, I actually had my own project, so I felt I should apply and and show off MultiversX as much as we can. So that's the reason why we applied. We're obviously doing a lot of different things. We're actually combining a mixture of SaaS products, AI, and blockchain technology, and putting it all together in the background so that the end user doesn't really see any of it, but they benefit from all the amazing things that these things bring. So I guess for a very brief description of us, we are building a giving platform, and when people give money to charity through our platform, they can see where the money's going using the blockchain technology, but they can also see real time what the impact of that money is having as well. And it's really about building that connection between the donor and what that money is actually accomplishing in the world, which is something that the charity space has really struggled with massively, which is something that I've seen from my own experience in the charity space, where I've grown up in different charities, helping volunteer most of my life, and always felt that there was a technology solution out there. So I finally decided it was time to build it. And MultiversX, to me, was just the obvious choice, because obviously I was very close with the community by that point, but the technology was the greatest in the whole world, and still I believe is one of them, if not the greatest. And the pace at which MultiversX is going, it just makes a lot of sense to build something like our system on here. We don't necessarily need a huge amount of liquidity from all of these things, but we benefit massively from the technology, and it's about using blockchain as that tech stack. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. I can talk a little bit about what we'll be. I'll give a little summary on what we'll do.
Say what's next.
So what's next? There's a lot of points that I could mention there, but with the Growth Grant, which has just started, we are building smart contract factories to be able to record and track the information for when money is being spent within charities. So to do this, we need to integrate within the charities business themselves, within their softwares, and that's where a lot of the SaaS of our product comes in, and integrations. So, and the reason I think this is quite important is because, and I'll try not to go too long, but the reason it's quite important is when we talk about data going on chain with blockchains, there's not necessarily any governance going involved or validation on this data actually being correct. We can put all the data we want on blockchain as much as we want, but if it's not actually verifiable or correct in the world today, then what's the point of having that on there? And that's one of the big unique things of what we're doing with our product. And we're making it also automated for the charities. So the charities don't have to do a huge manual effort themselves. They can just integrate an accounting software, they can integrate a CRM system, whatever it is, and it can automatically go through there. And then it goes through a governance structure where within that charity, they can approve and add information and everything like this. From that point, on chain, it can be tracked and shown specifically to the donors. So if a donor donates to a specific project, or for example, a specific charity as a general donation, then they will actually get a personalized overview of almost like an investing portfolio, but with donations and impact and updates being achieved. And we're also leveraging all of this data into AI agent models that we've custom trained. We put it into a sandbox environment so that the data is not being spread back to a underlying LLM. And we've obviously trained it on all of the charity data that we've collected and worked with current partners. And we've been doing impact frameworks to be able to write it out in the right kind of language that not only donors want to hear, but also institutions, governments, and foundations when they're giving out
That's
grants.
a big question for me. Like,
So-
I'm so curious, and we're now coming up on the second hour, so we'll wrap it very quickly. I think my internet now is back, so I'll do a quick highlight reel too. But when you're selling this product now, right? You have very distinct audiences. You have the donors, you have the institutions, you have the charities. You have the people that want to interact in some novel ways with this. What's your pitch at the moment to these different groups, and how much do you even like mention blockchain?
It's a great question. I'll do it kind of one line for each one. So for a charity, for example, our pitch is, and charity is the supply side of the marketplace, so it's actually one of the big things that we need to crack first. Our pitch is about being able to autonomously show to their donors at scale in a personalized way where their money's going and the impact it's having. Some charities get a little nervous on the where the money's going part, but the main point that we really drive with that is by building this transparency and this trust, you can actually raise a lot more money. Statistics and studies have shown that you raise up to 50% more in donations. I actually think it could be higher, because what those statistics don't say is the fact that only 48% of people in the UK, at least, and I think relatively worldwide, to be honest, trust charities. So when you're taking that into account, if you start to build back that trust, you can actually start to unlock and grow the market even more than it already is. So that's the pitch for them. For the donors, the pitch is obviously the transparency, being able to see where their money goes and being able to follow along, feel like they're involved in the journey, not just, I don't know, some rich person who's asked for money once a month, once a year, and then they get a general newsletter on what's happening rather than, specifically updates on what they've been donating to. And then the foundations and so on, it's much more about, we're actually pitching it in a way where our solution is very unique, because there are other solutions that are trying to do some things. I wouldn't really say direct competitors, but there are ones like Salesforce and all these kind of people. They run these softwares to help foundations manage their grants and data collection and so on. And our pitch with that is, unlike a lot of these other software companies, we're not charging these charities on a per seat basis, because if you charge a charity on a per seat basis, they're going to pay for one seat. And that one person is going to be in charge of asking everyone in the organization what's happening, where are the reports, where's the data, where's the money being spent. And it's just a nightmare. I've seen it personally with charities. It's so much data to handle. The reports are a lot of the time rubbish, because they have to fill out a 30-page impact report full of questions. And by page 10, you start to think, well, I'm volunteering my time for this. Why am I filling out this report that's taking me a week just to fill out questions that I don't even know the answers to, because I don't have access to the information? So that's really our pitch with the foundations. We are democratizing the data collection that they can bring to then inform better decision making within their foundations.
Yeah, very cool. I think that clutter is very, very common in different industries as well. I'm gonna see if I can give you guys a quick tour through the ecosystem, and then we'll wrap it up. Thank you, Tom. I think that's very interesting. Also, knowing how the growth games kind of like impact this. Can you see my screen? Should be good, right? So let's do a quick thing. Just want to give always a little bit of a shout out to the builders like Tom doing cool things. I think, again, we'll start with you, Tom, here. The growth grant you guys already discussed for like very interesting products. I just want to highlight Predicts because one of the most common things when Philanthropy was announced was like, oh, no new builders. Here is a team that I met personally in Turkey about a year ago during Istanbul Blockchain Week, together with Mihai, actually, that they've been going through the programs. We had an on-the-ground program with Ryzen that, surfaced a bunch of talent. A bunch of them are building on MBX. Predix is getting a grant. They're just starting out, so it's a very new, interesting concept of how to do prediction markets in sort of a social way. Quite interesting. You talked about, Victor, the protocol there, and Inspire and what they're bringing. So very exciting to, I think, see that happen. Events, we see Mihai here in inquisitive position at the booth in Vegas, where we were about 2 weeks ago. Some fun ViboX activations, really great connections with in particular the Cardano community, but lots of other people there. Benjamin was on stage, probably saw some interviews, kind of as a concerted effort to make the right connections, be in the right places, in the right discussions, in the US specifically. So that's very cool. Shifting to a different continent, and I teased this sort of Vibathon idea. This is my favorite, personally, of course, biased thing to follow, but Irene, our former Internet X Alliance, is now on a mission to onboard all of Nigeria to MultiversX, is actually hosting an event tomorrow in Kefi, and then another one in Minna in the following week. And the idea is to start with the ideas, with an ideathon, and then bring them to a Vibathon. So this is on the next stage is basically you have an idea, then how do you prototype this idea and bring it into production, into business actually. So very, very cool, because there's a lot of talent out there. And with some simple prompts and simple steps, there's really a lot of interesting challenges locally that blockchain can help. And Thomas, I know you worked in the region quite a bit. Obviously, Philanthropy is something that is very interesting there. Thomas was actually also judge in the first Ideathon. I mean, maybe I'll let you just talk about it very briefly on your impressions, but I think that's one of the sort of most exciting things we can do, is really go to different places, different communities, and build with them.
I completely agree. And I think something like a Vibathon would be really amazing out there. So I guess speaking real quick on the event, it was a great event. I did a little discussion on Web3 in general, on the benefits of blockchain technology and how it can be leveraged. I gave a little specifically to normal businesses as well, because that's a lot of what I'm looking at. But it was very engaged. It was very interesting to hear their pitches afterwards. They didn't have a very long time, but they really did think quite a bit about it. And me and Lucas had a great time, I think. So seeing Vibathons coming out from there would be really amazing. Africa's obviously really vibing community. I spent a lot of time in other countries, not Nigeria yet, at some point hopefully. But Nigeria is a massive country with a lot of growth in the startup scene as well. I've been to Rwanda a couple of times, and out there you see some of these startups are even being backed by Y Combinator, who are the biggest accelerator in the world, giving $500,000 checks for everyone that they bring into their accelerator. So it's really cool to see that happening, and I love what Irene's doing.
100%, and very interesting, and very excited about the outcomes. Of course, again, these are always sort of like long, nothing happens in a day. Especially there's a lot of the universities we're targeting there are quite technical, but still there sometimes is just a lot of gaps to fill in terms of blockchain knowledge and how to actually develop. As Mihai was saying, it is not recommended to just vibe a smart contract and then put that on mainnet. There is some due diligence still needed. But yeah, very interesting. I'll skip to the next interesting thing, which was institutions leveraging this technology, which is also something we're seeing, I think, more and more in different ways. At the recent Bucharest Air Show, ICI, whom MBX has been working, Elrond has been working for a number of years. Very interesting to see how these institutions think of this technology, what they're using it for, also how much it really takes to bring the technology to this very regulated, very like, let's say, crusty space where getting anything through the authorities just takes a lot of back and forth, etc. But because this is now established, there's quite a few things. Didn't put this in the slides, but also did ICI is also collaborating with a great museum in Belgrade that I've been to personally, called the Tesla Museum, also putting some of these artifacts on chain, making them one, collectible, but also giving them a digital identity that goes beyond like these sort of like haphazard attempts of like just digitizing the collection, but actually making it an artifact in the digital world. So I think that's pretty cool to see. The Cloud Chaser NFT collection, I think, sold out immediately. Also interesting to see that there is this sort of demand for these things, and having that be seeing that is super cool. Got to talk about the launch of the lending and borrowing protocol, XOX node. Fully open source, gaining traction, gaining users. Very cool to see another DeFi protocol. I think last time we were here talking about what Wondex is building, Mihai. I'm not sure if there's a date for the CLLM, forget which one, coming out, but that should be coming out soon. And I wanted to give a shout out to Amoria Finance. Very interesting to see that sort of move to earn build there. They just announced a partnership with Sense for Fit, who operate a bunch of gyms across Romania. Very interesting concept of just bringing in users, encouraging them to make good decisions with their lives, and then earning through it. So, this kind of thing that Stepan, I think, originally pioneered maybe in the space, but many interesting and new ways of doing it and rewarding people for good decisions. So that was just hopefully a fairly quick ride through the ecosystem. Just wanted to give some shout outs to cool products and projects and people building on MVX. And since we're up on the 2-hour mark, we're gonna cut it here. I'll toss it over to Tom first for some final thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I feel a little bad for Mihai. It seems like it's like 9 p.m. or maybe even 10 p.m. for you there. But working hard as ever, and I think that's kind of the theme of builders on MultiversX. Everyone's working so hard, and it's amazing to see. I'm very happy with the Growth Games grants. I would be even if I didn't win, because I do think it's a great thing for the ecosystem, and I think it's something which it's something that can help builders, especially the ones, as Lucas was saying, that want to come in from other ecosystems, but it can help run whatever server costs and so on like this that we need to do, and even a little bit more to be able to build some really cool stuff. And I think this has been a great episode. I think we've gone through a lot. Loved having Andu on as a special guest too. Andu's always great. Project X is doing some great things, and I love that little ecosystem highlight as well, Lucas.
Awesome. Mihai, final thoughts, Supernova, what's ahead?
Supernova. Yeah, so we are going to have a crazy packed September. We don't know for sure if the Battle of Nodes is going to start in September or close to the end of September, but definitely we will have a Battle of Nodes event. For that, so we already started to put on paper some ideas. We are also talking to some of the community builders about that, and trying to find the best fit for the type of activities that would be very helpful to test the Supernova implementation. Then we already started analyzing the second cohort of growth grants. Probably we will announce them in October, end of October. For that, we are aiming for another 4 projects. very good applications up until now. And hopefully by September, hopefully next month to say so, when we are going to have the next Momentum episode, we will talk about Vibe Studio 2 as the launched alpha, and everyone can try it and come with feedback. It is not going to be perfect from the beginning. That's a problem. So we are thinking about ways how we can support in the first period of time after the launch, just because we know that we are going to have some uncovered edge cases that may run into locking the agents, or some hallucinations or some other kind of problems. And obviously we do not want that, but we know it's inevitable, so we will have situations like that. But yeah, definitely we will find a solution, hopefully. And we are doing all what we can do to grow the number of new builders. VibeOX definitely will do a great benefit on that direction, just because it will be as easy as entering the platform, creating an account, which will translate into a wallet on VibeOX initially, but when you are deploying and you want to deploy probably on the mainnet, that will also translate to a wallet or a smart contract on the mainnet. And if your application or idea has some utility behind of it and some real world natural distribution, I'm sure that that will translate into much better statistics on that aspect. So yeah, I'm very optimistic about what's going to come. I'm always here to support everyone. So you can find me on Telegram. You can find me on Twitter. Just drop a message if you have an issue or a question. I'm there to answer and support everyone. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you
Amazing.
for all that you do. I'm looking forward to some more sleepless nights, and then the Vibe Studio 2 alpha testing. That's going to be great. Maybe we'll have that ready in time for some meetups, not just, you know, in Nigeria, but around the world. I think that's a very, very exciting prospect too, because like onboarding the new generation of sort of like dreamers and builders through this technology, I think is such a great chance. So thank both of you. Thank you to both of you for hanging out here for a couple hours. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, and thank you for everybody who tuned in or is tuning in after the fact. We always love to hear from you, as Mihai was saying. If there's anything that you need help with, DMs, etc., are open. Whether it's X Alliance, the the foundation, the builder chats, the discords, etc. There's a lot of channels where you can get in touch and get help. So don't hesitate to actually use these tools, because they're only as good as you know, the amount of users they have. So yeah, thank you guys. Have a great rest of your evening, I suppose. And I'll chat with you very soon. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Cheers and bye bye.